So today in class, we're going to be working on active and passive verbs. Who in here knows what an active verb is? Do you know?
Is it like when you go running or work out?
It could be. It depends. Who in here knows what a passive verb is?
Like when you pass the mashed potatoes?
Close. Okay, an active verb is when the thing doing the action is the subject and the thing receiving the action is the object. Like the sentence, Joe hit him. Joe is doing the action and him is receiving the action of hitting. So to recap, who remembers what an active sentence is, a verb is?
Hitting.
Anyone?
When the subject receives the action?
No, it's when the subject does the action. So the subject does the action.
What's the subject?
And the object, you know what the subject is.
I was really asking.
Receives the action. I'll answer your question in a minute. For example, Joe hit him. Who knows what the subject is in this sentence?
Joe.
Correct. Joe is the subject. And who knows what the object is?
Him.
Him. Correct. So, what's the action?
Hit.
Hit. Correct. So, Joe hit him is an active sentence because Joe is doing an action and the object is receiving that action. Okay, and a passive verb is when the thing receiving the action is the subject of the sentence. Like, for example, he was hit by Joe. So, let's see. He was hit by Joe. What's the subject of the sentence? Anyone?
He.
He, correct. It's the subject. What is the action?
Hit.
Hit, correct. Is the action. And the subject is he was hit by Joe, and Joe is hitting him, so the subject is receiving the action, making it passive. So passive is when the subject
Receives the action?
correct. Subject receives the action. Okay, now there are three main ways to recognize active and passive sentence structures. The first way is to find the subject. That's always going to help you. Like we did in those sentences, first thing you want to do is to find the subject so that you can identify where the action is going. So, for example, in the sentence, let's see. In the sentence, I love you, which is the subject? I love you. What word is the subject? I, correct. And what's the action?
Love.
Yeah, and what is the object?
You.
Correct. So this, what type of sentence is that? Active or passive?
Active.
Correct. It's an active sentence because the object you is receiving the action love from the subject I. Okay, another way to recognize active and passive sentence structures is to find the main verb. And we've been calling that the action. That's also the verb. So find the main verb. Okay, if I say the man was hit by the car. Let's write it down. The man was hit by the car. What's the subject of the sentence?
The man.
Correct. Man is the subject. What's the verb? Or the main end of the action?
Hit.
Yep, was hit with the linking verb. And then, is this active or passive? This one is passive because the subject is receiving the action. The car hit the man. This one is passive. So when it says find the main verb, it also means to find the action word. Okay, and the final rule, main rule that to help you recognize active and passive sentence structures is to examine the relationship between the subject and the main verb. So that's what we've been doing with all these sentences, is we've been looking at the subject, we've been looking at the verb and the objects, and we've been looking at how they relate to each other to figure out whether they're active or passive. We've noticed that with both of our passive sentences, there's been no object because it's actually been a prepositional phrase. By the car, by Joe. So examine the main verb and subject. So this concludes our lesson